Hey everyone, welcome. This is the Anidees. It's the AI Crystal Cube AR3. So this is a cube case, as the name implies, and today we're gonna have an overview of this case. To start with, what draws the attention of this case is its tempered glass panels, 3 in total, 1 on the front and 1 on each side. They are 5mm thick, smoke tinted tempered glass panels. And I noticed when I took these panels off is that one of the panels is slightly less tinted than the other two. And this way Anidees intended to really show off your components. And of course the included RGB fans, of course there's 5 of them. They included with the case 520mm RGB LED fans, but they also included 2 LED strips and a remote control. More about that later on in this video. Further on the outside of this case, on the right top, we can find the power button. And if we move over to the left, you can see we have 2 USB 3.0 ports. Below that, 2 USB 2.0 ports, a line out and a microphone connection. Below that is the reset button. Then on top you find a very big dust filter. It's magnetic, so it will clip on to your chassis, and it's to prevent from dust getting into your case. And on the bottom we find a dust filter as well for the 120mm fan mount inside. You can slide it out easily for cleaning. So if we take the front cover off, we notice immediately there's almost no room between the fans and the front glass panel. This will have a negative effect on the cooling. I can tell you that much. With this cover on, the glass panel is fitted so close to these fans, there is almost no room left for fresh air to get into the case. So that could definitely be a problem if you want a high performance PC like this one in a case like this. And if we move over to the top of the front side, you can see there's a 5¼ inch bay. Yeah, I'm quite surprised by this because the front cover is completely sealed with the tempered glass, so you can't fit a DVD drive in there or a Blu-ray drive. If you want to mount a 5¼ inch LCD screen or something like that in your case, well, this is suitable for that. Otherwise, really not ideal. So let's have a look on the inside of this case. As you can see, it's a dual chamber design, which means the motherboard, AO water cooling for your CPU and the graphics card go on the left side. Your PSU, hard drives, SSDs, etc. go on the right side. So first let's start with the left side then. It can fit motherboards up to e-ATX, so extended ATX, and as small as ITX. On the top you can mount a 240mm or 280mm radiator, or of course a couple of case fans. That's up to you. So on the bottom and the rear side you can install a 120mm AO or radiator. Of course, on the front left you can install a radiator as well. And on the bottom you can fit a 2½ inch SSD or HDD. So the right side then. Where the cable management goes, you can also fit 2 2½ inch SSDs. On the right of that you can fit 2 3½ inch hard drives, and they can be installed in the base, which are included with this case, but you could also fit 2 2½ inch SSDs there. And on the back of the hard drive cage there is another fan mount, so you can, for example, install an exhaust fan for the hard drives. Below the hard drive cage goes the power supply. Most power supplies do have a fan as well, and there's not much room for this fan either. You can point the fan towards the motherboard, and if you install a small motherboard you'll probably be fine because it will not cover up the intake for the PSU. If you mount it towards the tempered glass panel, you will only have 1 cm to be precise from the glass panel to the chassis of the PSU. So it won't be able to draw in fresh air as easily as it would in some other cases. So what about the contents of the box we found inside the hard drive cage? There are a bunch of cable ties included, 2 RGB LED strips, 2 power connectors for the LED strips that go into the controller, 2 5¼ inch mounting brackets for the front bay. We find the manual, the remote control, and of course a whole bunch of screws and standoffs to install your hardware into this chassis. So about the controller, both RGB LED strips will be connected to this controller, as well as the 5 pre-installed 120mm RGB fans. You can attach an additional 3 RGB fans, so 8 in total, to this controller. This controller supports RGB Sync, so if you have a Asus, MSI or Gigabyte motherboard, you can attach this controller to your addressable RGB header. If your motherboard isn't equipped with such an RGB header, you can use, of course, the remote control to manually adjust the colors and the fan speeds. So what about the assembly of this case? Well, you have plenty of room, I'll tell you that. For cable management there is plenty of room on the right side, and for all your other components on the left side. Even some larger graphics cards won't be a problem in this case. As for the graphics card, there's another nice touch: you can install it vertically. A PCIe riser cable is not included, but can be bought separately. So what about the airflow in this case? Well, I can't give you any exact numbers of the airflow of this case, but I can tell you this much. The exhaust fan is putting out a decent amount of air. The intake fans, not so much. There's almost no airflow getting into the case, and that's because the glass panel is covering the fans and therefore the intake. There is another version of this cube case, and it comes with a mesh front panel. So if you want the best cooling performance, go for that one, definitely. Maybe it's not as nice as looking as this one because it has a honeycomb structure as a front panel. Personally, I don't like that much. I think this is way cleaner than that, but you definitely will get some better cooling performance. And I almost forgot to mention, for the left and the right side they include 2 dust filters as well, with magnetic straps of course, you can slap them in place. So overall, my first impression of this case: it's a decent build case, that's for sure. It has no sharp edges, and the expandability of this case with SSDs, fans, radiators, etc. is really nice as well, for the size this case comes in. The airflow, well, I'm not a big fan of that. I like the looks of this case, but the airflow could definitely be better. Even if they included a little bit more room between the front panel cover and the intake fans, the airflow wouldn't be a problem anymore. Of course, you could choose to move the 2 120mm fans on the left to the inside of the chassis. That will give you way more headroom for intake, but the case wouldn't look symmetric anymore from the front, because the 2 fans on the right side, you can move them to the back because there's the chamber of the right side of the case. So yeah, that won't work. The only solution you would have then is move these 2 fans to the inside, and on the right side install 3 smaller fans like 80mm fans, but of course that wouldn't look as clean as it does now. Other than that, I must say, I really like this case. So for this case I paid 180 euros here in the Netherlands, and for that amount of money you may expect some quality. Of course, you get the 5 included RGB LED fans, you get the 2 RGB strips, those are worth some, well, maybe 70 euros together. You get the dust filters on top, on the inside, on the bottom side as well, the 5mm thick tempered glass, and the remote control, on which you can operate it manually. That's really nice because it has the fan controller in it as well. So, conclusion. If you want a really slick looking case, I definitely recommend this case. If you want the best airflow, maybe consider the mesh version of this. With that, I'm gonna leave the video at this. If you have any comments, suggestions, maybe some advice, if you have some questions about this case as well, please leave them down in the comment section. Thank you all for watching, and see you in the next one. Bye!